Hey, everybody. I hope you're doing well today. Well, let's take a closer look at the 6 stages of economic integration and understanding what they are. Okay, here are the first two. The first is a preferential trading area, which a definition is a preferential trading area is a trading bloc that gives preferential access, imagine that, to certain products from certain countries. And this is usually carried out by reducing but not eliminating tariffs. An example of a preferential trade area is one between the European Union and the African, Caribbean, and Pacific group states, or the ACP. And usually, right, these agreements have some sort of reciprocity. In other words, it's agreed that this agreement will help both sides of the parties, right? Both groups, the European Union and, of course, the ACP. Okay, so that's the first stage, and that's just sort of a deal like, hey, I'll be your friends, and I prefer you if I'm going to trade over someone else. Okay, the next stage of economic integration are free trade areas, right? A free trade area is defined as an agreement between countries where the countries agree to trade freely among themselves, but are able to trade with other countries outside of the free trade area in whatever way they wish. And actually, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which comprises the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, was established in 1994. And the idea here was to open up free trade between those three countries. So if you take a look here, country A, country B, country C, this triangle here, right, is the free trade area. And that allows, in the case of NAFTA, of the United States, Mexico, and Canada to trade freely amongst themselves. Beautiful. That doesn't prohibit them from trading with someone else, right? And so country A, say it's the United States, can have a complete embargo against country D. Country C could decide to have free trade with country D, and country B could sort of be in the middle and have, impose tariffs. But the free trade area just opens up an area where it's able to, where these three countries agree to be friends and trade freely, but it leaves them to make their own decisions about other places. The next stage, or the third stage of economic integration, is a customs union. And a customs union is an agreement made between countries where the countries agreed to trade freely among themselves, and they also agreed to adopt common external barriers against any country attempting to import into the customs union. So all common markets and economic and monetary unions, which are the next stages of integration, are also customs union, and therefore the EU is a customs union. But think about this. Look at, here is country A, B, and C, and they have free trade, but this is beyond the free trade area, because now look at, there's like a force field, right? Yeah, sorry, you can't come in here. So now they have to make a joint agreement with country D. And so they have these common external barriers that would prohibit any of the members from trading with country D, or country D trading with any of them independently, right? And so they have to have a joint agreement. So you can see how this is a progression of integration beyond the free trade area to a customs union. Look at, the circle is closing up. The next stage of economic integration are common markets. And a common market is a customs union, so have that picture in your head, with common policies on product regulation, on free movement of goods and services, capital, and labor. And the European Union is a common market. And this is a good example here. If you follow international football at all, once the European Union was created as a common market, international players, labor, were able to travel freely within the common market and gain employment. And that's how all of a sudden there were many people who weren't from England playing in the English Premier League, and many people not from Spain playing in the Spanish league, and the same thing for the Serie A in Italy. The deal was that before that, labor was not common. It wasn't a common market. You had to get rights to work inside England if you were from Spain, and many players had to wait for work permits. But a common market allows goods, services, and capital to move freely, and that's why you have so many international players playing in various clubs, because the European Union is it is a common market. It would be no different if the United States, like, some professional basketball player who lives in California can go work in New York and play for the New York Knicks, right? That's because the United States is also a common market. It's also a country, which makes it a lot easier. Okay, so there's that. Economic and monetary unions is the fifth stage of economic integration, and that is an economic and monetary union which is a common market with a common currency and a common central bank. Wow. So now the common market, look, they keep integrating. They keep getting closer. A common economic and monetary union, an example is the Eurozone, which includes the member countries of the European Union that have adopted the euro as their currency and have the European Central Bank as their central bank. Now, there are many advantages of this, right? Obviously, exchange rate fluctuations that existed between countries will disappear with a common currency, and this should eliminate exchange rate uncertainty. A currency which has enhanced credibility is being used in the large currency zone, and it makes it more stable. The euro is an internationally sought-after currency. Business confidence within the economic and monetary union tends to improve as there's less perceived risk involved in trading with other countries, and this could promote internal growth and trade. Transaction costs, imagine, transaction costs between firms who are in different countries obviously is eliminated because they're part of one monetary union. I always think about all the money that the exchange, that when you go to the airport and you drop out, you fly out of, you show up in Paris and you have, I don't know, Deutschmarks, and you want to think of all those commissions that the currency desks lost. A common currency also makes price differences more obvious between countries. But the thing is, there's a lot lost in a monetary union. And the most important thing, and this is one of the things you see in Europe right now with Greece and Spain, for example, is that they've lost control of of their central bank. They can't control their own interests, right? I mean, managing the interest rates and the availability of money in your country is really important. And if there's an external central bank, which is what the European Union has, it can be quite difficult to manage your own unemployment rate or influence inflation or influence your rate of economic growth. And then you're depending on, say, Germans, right, to help you out in Spain, but the Germans might not want to help out Spain or might not want to help out Greece. And all of a sudden you have quite the political battle, which we've all seen happen in Europe over the years. And that's all because they're the economic and monetary union that's established in Europe, which is called the Eurozone. All right. And then, lastly, there is complete economic integration, right? And complete economic integration is the final stage of economic integration, at which point the individual countries involved would have no control over economic policy, full monetary union, and complete harmonization of fiscal policy. And this is what the Eurozone is moving towards. And it's really difficult, just to go back for a second, to talk about the economic and monetary union that exists in Europe with the Eurozone. It's almost impossible to really figure out what is the best situation because the advantages and the disadvantages seem to almost cancel one another out. And that's an important thing for you to know as we go to the next slide, which is the evaluation of trading blocks. Okay, so here we go. This is the kinds of things you can build into your essay. They're really helpful, but I'm just going to read through them, and I put all these words on the screen if you want to write them down. But the extent of the advantages and disadvantages of trading block clearly depend on the degree of integration. And I think that seems fairly obvious, right? But the degree of integration would obviously influence whether or not, or how much it matters, right? In purely economic terms, the benefits of being a member of a trading bloc are similar to those of free trade. Good. As a result, there may be further stimulus for investment due to the larger market size, and foreign investment might be attracted from outside the bloc as a way of getting a foot in the door in the larger market. Beautiful. There is also an argument, however, that along with economic gains, a trading bloc will foster greater political and economic stability and cooperation, which is possible. It is also possible that trade negotiations may be easier in the world if there are a large number of large trading blocs rather than 149 different countries or they're more than that, right? However, by their very nature, trading blocs favor increased trade among members, exclusivity, but act as a discriminatory policy against non-members, and this can be damaging to the achievements of multilateral trading negotiations, for example, for the World Trade Organization. They may also underline international trade rules and limit the potential gains for trade achievable with a more liberalized world. I mean, you think about trading blocks, it's like cutting off, hey, we're on one team, you're on the other. That doesn't sound like free trade on the global way. And so these large trading blocks can actually maybe decrease the ability for free trade to happen around the world, or maybe better said, like allow for an effective allocation of the world's resources. And then the last thing, this may not be as much of a problem for large economies as it might be for smaller, poor economies that have little bargaining power. And this is the recurring deal, right? Like, you know, the little guys tend to really struggle economically playing in the world market. Why? Because they're small, right? And the bigger countries can take advantage of them. And also the bigger countries tend to be the historically, politically strong countries. And then maybe those countries were even, you know, former colonizers of other countries. And it creates a lot of political problems for smaller countries, but may be less developed. Okay, so I hope you found this video to be helpful, and I'll talk to you in a bit.